Hi, I'm ADHD and attention coach Jeff Copper here today to talk to you a little bit about procrastination. Laura McNiven once wrote, "You can't treat ADHD through the lens of shame and blame." I think that's a really profound statement that we need to remember. I also learned from my mother when I was growing up is if something is hard, you need to admit it. If you don't, you are not giving it the respect that it's due. So let's take all these concepts and move it into procrastination. One of the things that I have found is ambiguity and boredom are the root of most issues where you procrastinate. And one of the things that I've learned is when you're not doing something, you should ask your question, what's hard? And let me just kind of show you how this plays out, how sometimes you actually have to admit that something's hard. Years ago, I had a gentleman give me a call, and at the top of his procrastination list was calling his relatives to tell them about his upcoming daughter's dance recital. And I asked him, well, what's hard about doing that? He said, no, it's easy. An argument ensued at this point in time because I said, listen, it's at the top of your procrastination list. You're paying me money right now in order to coach you through this. If you're not going to admit that it's hard, I'm not going to be able to help you. Finally, he acquiesced and said, okay. And as I asked him what was difficult, and he began to think about it, he began to realize the past. What typically he does is he calls them up, like his brother or something like that, and says, hey, I got this dance recital in 2 weeks. And I'll invariably ask him, what do we wear, where do we park, and what do we bring? To that, he doesn't have any answers. Now he's got to go back to his wife. Now he's got ADHD and he's been taxed to do things like this before, and he's gone back and he gets the response, just can't you do this one thing? And so now there's a little bit of an emotional attack and there's a little bit of anxiety associated with going back to his wife and asking her, what are the answers to these questions? Well, in the end, once we acknowledge that he wasn't clear about the answer to those questions, what was hard was making that phone call because he didn't know those answers and he would have to go back to his wife. Then we began to realize that this little thing that seemed to be easy, a simple phone call, was actually hard. What I'd like to illuminate is that simple question by asking yourself, what is hard, is one of the most amazing diagnostic tools I found to help uncover what's really underneath of what you're procrastinating on. Because if you don't get to the heart of it, you can put all the posters up and you can all the incentives you want, but you're still not getting to the root of the problem. What I'm hoping you're taking from this little tidbit is something simple, and that is you can't treat ADHD through the lens of shame and blame. Beating yourself up doesn't do any good. The issue is you got to get to the heart of why you're procrastinating. When you're procrastinating, one of the simple tools is say, what is hard? Focus in on that as a discovery tool, and you might be surprised at what you unearth. Once you find out what the item is, then you can actually problem solve around it. I hope you've enjoyed this tip.